Live, please go ahead.
Heard the buzzword intellectual property in the startup space lately? Do you also have an invention or creation which might become intellectual property for your business? Not sure? You can find out here. Startups shouldn't ignore this powerful right because of its commercial potential. IP is a prized asset, but we don't have to get baffled by it. Let's try and demystify it. IP can benefit your business in many ways. It can stop your competitors from copying your innovations and ideas. Patents can secure the ideas around your inventions and technology. Improve company reputation and product image. And attract outside investors. Your patents and copyrights can protect your innovation and creativity in cases of collaboration. You can earn revenue from your IP and also take legal action against its unauthorized use. Let's get started.
Namaskar and good evening to all. I would like to welcome you all today for L2 Pro workshop on best practices for innovators. I'm your host Nitin Sharma. I work for Qualcomm as Technology Counsel and look after various IP initiatives at Qualcomm India. I'm also co-chair of IPR committee as SHM. This is a webinar series that we have started to connect with you all on the field of intellectual property. This is the century of intellectual property, and for any country which aims to play a significant role in the global economy, intellectual property plays a very crucial role in achieving that goal. Through this webinar series and L2 Pro platform, our goal is to spread awareness around IPR. Today's webinar is a very interesting one where we will hear insights from the best experts in the industry around best practices for innovators, from all the multiple distinguished speakers, and we'll introduce them in a short while. Now, this series is brought to you by an IP course material platform called L2 Pro, which stands for Learn to Protect, Secure, and Maximize Your Innovation. Now, the idea of L2 Pro platform started from our discussions with in regards to Make in India with the government of India. When Prime Minister Mr. Modi visited US, he met our CEO, and as part of Make in India program, we started Qualcomm Design India Challenge program to support startups. While working with those startups, we realized that there are some startups who are very well versed with the concepts of intellectual property, and they use and they build good IP strategy, whereas there are many others who need help around building a good IP strategy for their organizations. And hence the idea of creating such a platform which provides a holistic view of intellectual property and how to use it in any organization came alive. And we created this platform in collaboration with DPIIT and CPAM. We have been engaging with startups since 2016, and this program has learned from that and kind of evolved over the years. This is available on website at l2proindia.com. It stands for Learn to Protect, Secure, and Maximize Your Innovation, and it's specifically designed for startups, MSMEs, and innovators, and basically help them prepare or get an understanding of the fundamentals of intellectual property. Through this platform, we aim to increase awareness and increase in better understanding of intellectual property domain, specifically around how to protect innovations with patents, use of copyrights, how to build good trademarks, and integrate IP considerations into the company business models, right? Basically create a good IP strategy. Right. And also along with that, how do you obtain value from research and development efforts that your organization is engaged in, right? There are three levels in this platform. One is the basic level, which covers the general introduction of patents, trademarks, copyrights, etc. Covers all the types of intellectual property protection mechanism that's available in India. It talks about unfair competition, trade secrets, etc. as well. Intermediate level goes a bit beyond the basics, talks about NDAs, restricted covenants, how do you acquire IP, and how do you commercialize it, right? And certain aspects like FTO, freedom to operate, etc., around commercialization. The advanced level then talks about access to funding. How do you use your IP to increase the valuation of your startups? There's a bit of introduction of standard setting organizations because sometimes you might have to deal with SCPs, and also a bit about how do you deal with IP disputes when you're talking about infringements, validity, defenses, and arbitration as a dispute resolution method. This also comes in the form of a mobile app, wherein you have a very nice interactive app. A few screenshots are shown on the screen. Basically, it covers various aspects of IP as we discussed. It also talks about some of the government schemes that are available for startups. So anyone who goes through this course can get awareness of all these things. There is, you saw the introductory video before this, before we started. That's basically part of the L2 Pro program. And there are some of these snapshots. It also has some questions that comes up after you finish certain parts to kind of ensure that you have, picked up the concepts that were discussed. And in the end, you get a certification, and it's certification with the unique QR code. And it's certified by CPAM, NLU Delhi, and Qualcomm. So I think it's a pretty good course, and I heard that from some of the participants that based on these certificates, these certificates help them in their subsequent interviews, etc. as well. So something that you can get after you've finished the course. Now, I think we have already covered that video, so I'll skip that. So without further ado, I think I would like to introduce our first distinguished speaker, Balwant Rawat, who leads the IP and Strategic Alliance Intelligence activities for Mercedes-Benz Research and Development India. He's committed to inventor rights. Balwant advocates for recognition and remuneration of innovators, reflected in his public research on the need for inventor remuneration law in India. He is recognized as one of the world's leading IP strategists by IM Media and a recipient of IP Excellence Award by ASSOCHAM and the In-House Counsel Award by India Business Law Journal. He's also a certified innovation coach in design thinking, a certified lean and agile practitioner, and a registered patent agent with the Indian Patent Office. Balwant's areas of expertise include the systematic generation of high-quality IP portfolios, fostering IP and innovation culture through inventor engagement, patent portfolio management, patent research, and strategic technology intelligence, along with the alignment of IP strategy with technology and business strategy. It's an honor and privilege to welcome you, Balwant. Looking forward to have a good conversation with you today. Our second distinguished speaker is Mr. Muralidhar Somashetty. He has co-founded startups in SaaS, IoT, and e-mobility domains, and passionate about solving the health and future sustainability goals through technology-led innovations. He's a strong believer of Make in India for the world, and is currently the founder and CEO of Wellnesses Technologies, the health tech startup behind the award-winning product Yogify, that is revolutionizing at-home fitness by integrating yoga and mindfulness practices as part of everybody's daily lifestyle. He won multiple awards and recognition for his work on Yogify. Most recently, Most Inspiring Tech Entrepreneur Award. He's an inventor on multiple Indian and international patents. It's an honor and privilege to welcome you, Muralidhar. I think looking forward to hear your journey from the startup perspective, and I guess a lot of our attendees as well. So without further ado, let's dive into our conversation. and explore how organizations can thrive through effective innovation and IP management. All right, so everybody ready? I think this is going to be a good conversation. So first question, I think Balwant goes to you. You started building an R&D IP-driven organization from level zero. I think your journey, which thankfully I'm aware of, has been very inspiring. So just wanted to request you to throw some light on how was your journey? How did you encourage experimentation, innovation, and IP-focused mindset way back in the era where, I think we all know we started, you know, talking about when you start talking about IP, it was not considered a good thing, right? And we have moved on a lot from that era. But how was it? And over to you.
Sure. Thank you, Nitin, for the kind introduction. So I'm just reflecting back on the journey. So I am an engineer by education. So from IIT BHU, I was supposed to join the software industry, but then thought to experiment with IP as in a startup way. So I was one of the first engineers in the world of IP, and then the journey was amazing because what I realized as a part of that, what I've been studying, let's say in college, is the technologies that are from the past, basically. And when you go to the industry, then you solve today's problems. So, and you will see right now that there is a little bit of disconnect between what we study in the colleges and what we actually solve the problems as a part of the daily jobs. But the unique experience I got as a part of entering the world of IP, because my role was also on the patent research, as well as looking at the inventions which are going to change the world in the next 10 years, right? So we were looking at inventions from the Silicon Valley at that time, and also in the European Union. And there I saw that, yes, how the future is going to look like. It was in 2001, and I still remember that mobile phone was the recently introduced in India. It's a 2G mobiles, very big mobiles from Motorola and from Nokia. So it's a 2G technology, and it was a luxury at that point of time. But the patent that I was actually drafting at that point of time was in the 3G video communications on the Skype or like that point of view, so which was introduced 10 years down the line. So I then realized that by doing the patents research and finding out, so this is a fantastic exposure for an engineer like me, and I can say that patents are the windows to the future, right? So if you want to change the future, or you want to know the future, at least on the technology side, patents are a good way to look at that, the research part. So along that, so mostly I worked in the patent drafting, patent searching, all that domain, and helping our clients at that point of time for the first 10 years. And then slowly I got introduced to the innovations and got to know that IP and innovations are very, very interrelated. So mostly I have been focusing and also advising my clients at that point of time in creation of IP. But it was later, maybe 10 years later, when I actually worked with the R&D engineering team and saw that, yes, it's not that easy or straightforward when you see from outside. Because as you work in the R&D, especially for the companies, the key areas to create IP, one of the main problems is what is the problem that we should focus on, right? Because most of the time, many companies are focusing on today's problems. That's what you will see the engineers doing the day job. And that also is a good source of IP but you will see mostly incremental innovations out of that. However, if you really want to create a very high quality and disruptive kind of innovations and IP, you must look at the tomorrow's problems. So that is the key insights that I was able to provide, and that's the value that our IP team also provides to our R&D engineers to see not only how the industry is changing right now, but also what the future of technology going to look like. So first part is that what problems then we can prioritize and focus, which will lead to a greater ROI for the company to be more innovative in the future. That was the one point. And second point that I was able to see with my team is to do a research and finding out is that problem that we are trying to focus on, is it already solved by someone else? Because there is a study by European Patent Office, 25% of the R&D is simply wasted because those problems are already solved and IP is already existing, right? So, but they don't know how to find out the solution. So that is what the key research that we were able to provide and value in that IP team. And third part was that, even if it is existing, then how can I improve on somebody else's solution so that I can optimize to my problems and then further create IP out of it. So that is more on the IP creation part. So as an IP person, IP professional, I was always waiting for the ideas to come first, and then only we can do the research, or then only we can file IP or check the research and all that. But if you want to really get a very high quality IP, a lot of that which I learned over the years working closely with the R&D teams here is that it matters to the building the right culture, the IP culture of the organization, IP and innovation culture. And what I observe is that, what is a culture ultimately? It's the set of beliefs, it's their way of working in an organization, and it is shaped by the leadership team. So people play a very important role. So I got a chance to work with the leadership team, and we were defining the IP strategy of the organization. So I was fortunate to have great leaders through which I was able to influence the key processes to get their mandate for innovation, so that we can change the beliefs and behavior of the overall organization. So once we align the leadership team, it is easy to have a right environment where all employees are motivated to put in their best, to go beyond their job, and to really contribute towards the high quality IP portfolio, right? So once that culture is set in, right, then the processes are the next steps where then how do you identify the right problems? How do we capture ideas, evaluate, across the full life cycle? And how do we allocate resources to training, learning? All that becomes, a way to sustain that level of mandate and culture of the organizations. So ultimately, I believe that one or two IPs or short term is not that sufficient. What should be the focus is to build a very strong portfolio, IP portfolio for your organizations, because that would be your differentiating factors. And to build that portfolio, it's not just that you just simply ask for ideas and then work on those ideas, but all that right culture, the processes will actually help. And if I have to summarize my key learnings, like I can say that there are 3 points that has really helped me and which can actually help any organization which is working with people, especially the scientists and engineers when we are creating that. So one thing that we are actually emphasizing is that every engineer or scientist, they must have a basic, at least essential patent research skills that they should learn apart from the other learning, because then they should be able to also search, identify problems, read patents, interpret patents. So this is what we actually focus on. Every engineer, they have to go through this so that they are able to then identify opportunities and work with the IP team. Second part, as a part of the culture, we place a very important role on the value of our inventors. So the rewards and recognition mechanisms that we have built in. So we have seen that those also are very, very important as per the organizational awards. So if you have seen the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? So I can relate to it that the basic need at that foundation level is the security. So that's where the rewards will at least make them feel valuable. The recognition comes with the social part where you recognize that they are doing a great job. And at the top of it is also giving a purpose and a deep meaning that how their innovations and IP are contributing to the overall growth of the organization and also the industry. And while the inventors are doing that, the third point, which is my learning, is that an idea can come from a single mind, but for an idea to transform to an innovation, it takes a team. So it's a team effort. So the collaboration and co-creations are definitely needed if you really want to convert a good idea to good innovation. So a right team with complementary expertise, supported by the management and the processes, really help in building a strong portfolio and overall benefit for the organization. So that's what I can sum up with.
Thank you. Briefly summarize. I think the key takeaway I would say is it's a full process. It's a holistic process across the organization, and I think uh, you know uh, your contributions and driving that message across the organization, and I think the results are really wonderful. So thank you for sharing this. In the startup world, right, Murli sir, I think in a big organization, you have a focused person dedicated for this or departments looking at it. But in startup world, it's a single man army, maybe a handful of people, lots of things to worry about. How do you manage to create space for capturing innovation and build IPS? I know you are a tech-driven company, and so how did this fit into your strategy? I think that'll be an interesting because a lot of time we talk about use of IP, etc. A lot of people come back and then say, "Hey, it's one of the later things to worry about. Let me survive first and all that." But having you today, I'm very excited because you have basically made IP as the center of your uh, core work and build on it. So would be very happy to hear how did you prioritize it? How did you build on it? So please.
No, I think thanks, Nitin. I think for asking the key question, how do you make innovation part of the culture and how does it become part of startup DNA? So before I get into really that part, I just want to quickly rewind the time here. I was in Cisco before getting into startups, and when I was at Cisco, and I worked for 15 long years in Cisco before taking the leap as an entrepreneur, and I'll be very honest. In the corporate world, I probably filed maybe like a couple of patents or so in so many years, even though I started as an engineer to got into management line and product management, a lot of things, right? So corporate. And and when I moved to entrepreneur and I became an entrepreneur, within last 8 years, I completed 8 years recently, and I filed 20 patents
Awesome.
in 8 years. And interestingly, 100% hit ratio in terms of grants. So that's something which I could never believe when I was in corporate world, that I could file so many patents, or I can ask my team to focus on this. So how did this whole thing happen is like, and when I always look at um, IP or patents. So what is IP? Essentially, it's like it's one of the key foundational blocks for any startup, because we need to look at this as intellectual property, just like you have on your profit and loss, P&L, and capital gains, capital loss, and all that in typical financial world. A lot of the times people ignore the assets which are not really quantifiable, because patents are very difficult to call it as a tangible certain value. You cannot really put it in your P&L and L and business. So in startup world, what happens is the focus is always on getting your business to grow, getting your business, MRR, ARR, all these typical business thing is what most of the times we focus. But me being more inclined towards technology, because when I became an entrepreneur, it's not like, okay, it's all about just creating business, but also creating certain meaningful impact in the world. And I was very focused on sustainability and looking at more like a future problems, like how this whole e-mobility will look like in the future, how health will look like in the future. As Mr. Balwan said, it's all about looking at forward-looking problems, right? But in the current context, we need to always look at, okay, there's something fancy idea or coming up with an idea, I'm filing a patent. But if it doesn't align with our business goals or what we are doing in the startup, then it becomes like, okay, you're just creating patents, which is of not really adding value to the startup. So there is a thin line and there is a fine balance, and we should not go, just so much, kind of obsessed with only finding patents and ignoring business. At the same time, if business and patents are both are like very, very important, intellectual property and this one, right? So in this context, one of the things that we brought in the company uh, from the day zero, I would say, day zero, is that we should be the pioneers in something that we are building. So if we are pioneers, we need to be the front runners, the prime movers. So we should raise the barrier of entry, and so we find the white spaces in the patents. So we do a lot of brainstorming. It's not like okay, we just sit and find the white spaces. We always obviously have a business goal and plan and all that. But for example, I'll give you an example on electric mobility. What we did was we come from telecom background. Basically, I worked on a lot of telecom networking and OSS, BSS, so all these telecom management systems. One of the fine days we got into e-mobility because of some project that we took from Finland, and we started working on something there to understand the opportunity space. In that, we identified white spaces. Then we said, what? How about we bring the same telecom parallel to electric mobility, the charging network, the CPU, similar mapping. So we started to create. Okay, how do you meter here? Just like people are using, but electric batteries or charging this thing. How do you monetize it? How do you enable billing? How do you meter it? So a lot of these ideas when we started, how do you even throttle somebody if they paid like a prepaid thing, like okay, 50 rupees and it can go to some point. After that, they have to recharge. So these are the ideas. Suddenly, we didn't even know that these will be uh, thought like a patents, but we thought, okay, why don't we go ahead and file? And in the process, we got grants, and eventually, it did become very important asset to have on the companies. Again, it's not about P&L business and all, but these assets became very important in terms of when we got an exit acquisition, and that's when we understood, oh, what is the value of these things, because somebody else is seeing value of this IP, the platform we built and things like that. So that's where the learning came. Like startup should never ignore the most important class, asset class. It may be not showing up in P&L, but the intellectual property. And then fast forward in my current startup Yogify, which is where we filed more patent. This is the patent tree in our office headquarters in Bangalore. And the idea is, ideas are like seeds, right? And innovation is, you have a trunk, and inventions that come out of these seeds, and it takes a lot of time. And these patent grants you see are the fruits. And it's like any fruit. So you need to wait for the fruit. It's not like, and you cannot do something with the intent, okay, I'll get a patent grant. You will just go ahead with an intent that, okay, I have maybe some idea which has certain claims, which maybe don't have a prior art, or maybe there is some opportunity there to capture. We just go and file it. But we need to wait for time, and we need to go through examination. So these are the patent tree. Usually people put patent walls. We thought we will create a patent tree. And this, how each, the idea is like seeds growing into fruits, and the fruits actually, and then there is a branching out. So sometimes one idea, one patent can give you more ideas to more file more patents. So it's branching out and becoming like a big, hopefully someday it becomes like an Amazon forest tree. So that's the idea, right, as a startup. So, and that's where, and the culture, how we did this whole thing so ingrained in our culture is we celebrate every patent grant with a cake cutting. So we celebrate every milestone, right? And in that process, it became part of everybody's culture. Oh, you know what? As an engineer, that is the best thing to happen to get a patent in your name or inventor. And when we got first US patent, we were on cloud nine because it's not easy to get US patents, right? So, and overall, that's how the journey has been. And we created a culture of celebrating innovation and then leading to invention to getting really the patent grants.
Brilliant. I think I really liked the way you have connected the business objectives with the IP and the use of IP. I think just to add, I think patents by itself are not as useful unless it's tied with the IP strategy, right? It's an industrial property. It's classified as industrial property, and therefore there is no standalone IP strategy or IP core, right? It is tied down with business strategy. So beautifully put together in your message. Thanks. So coming back to the processes and tools, Balwant, you mentioned about establishing after culture. The next step, as you said, is around building processes and tools. Could you give insight into the kind of tools or systems that you have put in place for managing and tracking innovation, right? Because in bigger organizations, typically these mavericks can be everywhere. And then how do you capture their ideas and kind of not just capture them, but how does that translates into creating meaningful IP assets, as Murli said, tied down with the business? So what are those practices, systems, and tools?
Yeah. So thanks, Nitin. So we have two type of teams which are actually helping. One part is the strategic intelligence team, which are continuously looking at opportunities, the trends from markets, the technology side, what's really happening. So for those, we really use a lot of databases of the scientific and technical literature, the patent uh, databases for which we can also do the search. So those are also windows to really keep track of what's really going on in the outside world. Then there are in-house tools that we have developed, which will make it easy to collect ideas, problem statements, and once we collect that, it's all connected through workflow to the technical experts, to the IP team, so that together with the technical experts, the business leaders, and IP team, we can evaluate those ideas, prioritize them, see which ideas are worth going to the next stage of developing either into a patent applications or into a POC and implementation. So we have two parallel paths that we have. One is on the IP filing and other is on the innovation management side. So this tool really helps us in tracking the development of those ideas and also connecting all the inventors so that they can also collaborate with each other to develop those opportunities. Because as I mentioned, that we need to have the right team. So through this platform, we are able to really look at that. And management can also see that, yes, all the KPIs, all the investment that is going, how fast the ideas are moving, and how we can support that.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice. Wonderful. And then these are in-house tools, or you have something that is off the shelf, or how's that?
It's a combination. So some are in-house. So especially the workflow part is in-house because it's related to our process, and the external search tools that we have, those are external.
Wonderful. Okay, great. So yeah, so I think internal collaboration, I think is through the tools, and I think capture. So that's good. External collaborations, right? That's also important part of being a tech startup, I guess, because you will have to share your technology details or your confidential information with maybe investors, maybe potential partners, or and so on and so forth. So Molly, what challenges you have faced in kind of defining ownership and usage rights, and especially in joint ownership agreements? Maybe I don't know if you're manufacturing your own products, but if you're sharing with
Yeah,
partners, how's that address? Or maybe in some other context when you might have to do a joint development, how does those collaborative, the tools or the do's and don'ts of collaboration that you have
absolutely.
used?
Absolutely. I think uh, it's a very important pertinent aspect which we go pretty much every now and then when we talk to vendors, suppliers. So by the way, in my current startup, Yogify, which is a smart yoga mat, we manufacture the sensors and the mats in India, and very proud to share that actually this is one product which other countries are trying to copy.
Mm.
And essentially it's very we definitely got into a situation when we started doing this. We obviously wanted to rely on China, Why do we want to get into this headache of Make in India and manufacturing? Very honestly, that was the initial intent in pandemic times when we started. It's 2020. Maybe thanks to pandemic, we started looking what can be done internally, but and leverage some of the China expertise from China and other things, and hardware and few other things, tooling. We left it to them. But in the process, we had to share certain the designs and schematics and things like that. So I'll be very honest. I think NDS don't really give us so much of, uh, you know, support. They are only for formality, especially with if somebody wants to do reverse engineering, copy, and all that, they can always do that. Even though you may have a very strong legal language in your NDA documents, mutual NDA, and all that, uh, the best way to really we the funny incident was once we got what we are building, we got it from China. Hey, we built something for, can you guys experience it and try it out? And we know that the secret sauce we never exposed. Very smartly, we always, even though they rip it apart, open it, they cannot do certain things, they cannot find out what's going on there. And because of that, when we got that sample, it was never working. Right? For the smart yoga mat, one of the tests is zero noise test. When somebody is not on the mat, it should know that it is not on, somebody is not on the mat. And the sample we got from China, we found that it didn't work.
Didn't work.
Right? So definitely agreements, documents, NDAs and all fine, but we should be designing for IP protection in the product. This is what I call production design. It's so important that you open it, do anything, you remove the nuts and bolts, but still there should be some secret sauce which will either break when they open it and which basically becomes dysfunctional or something like that. So that's core part of engineering design in my view. And that's how you can collaborate with any external parties, especially when you're working with the supply chain, manufacturing aspects. Now coming to working with other partners and big brands, we did sign partnerships with big brands. Uh, yeah, I mean I think basically that is where actually we should be clear about what we are going into, what level of details. So not everything should be white box, very open, right? We should be having our own boundary on where we should stop, and that's where the definition of uh, the SDKs, the licensing, the elements of APIs, not giving out openly the algorithms or the technology part. And so this is how uh, it worked in reality. Although on paper we need to have protection, as I said, as you rightly said, yeah, we need to have agreements, NDAs, all these things. But I'll be very honest, we need to do something more than that. Designing for protection is also very, very important part of the startup or for that matter, any company.
Yeah, no, that's a great input. I think you're right. I think NDAs agreements, they are, good to have. Maybe, but for the startups and the smaller companies, it's a difficult one to go and enforce it through courts or other methods. So I think I really
Can I
like
just
your
add one more point? Sorry, I forgot to mention. So this is one more thing that I realized. Even protecting your supply chain sources is so important.
Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
Okay. So because I think that's another thing we need to be careful.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you open up also, then you're exposing yourself, right? So this is another part that we realized.
Yeah, brilliant. I think these are probably the trade secrets that you have and you don't share it with the external world when you discuss. So nice, very nice. Thank you. Okay, so maybe we can take a couple of directions from here. Let's look at so maybe while we are on this, Morley, maybe another quick question on the India's IP ecosystem. Do you think it has enough incentives, enough support system for startups, especially startups and MSMEs to, are there any support systems? Are there any schemes, either private, government, or whatever, that startups can rely upon to build good IP strategy? Do you have any experience on that or suggestions on that?
Yeah, yeah. So I think on that front, again, uh, very honest, again, I don't want to sugarcoat. I have not leveraged government incentives. Maybe we did try initially, but the process was very cumbersome to get any reimbursements on these patent intensive and all. Uh, Maybe it would have got better, to be very honest. I don't know about the recent developments, but when I was trying in 21, around that year, 22, it was quite a cumbersome process to get the IP incentives. But here is what my experience. Uh, Qualcomm has been a fantastic partner because we were part of Qualcomm Design in India cohort, QDIC program, and 2021 we were one of the winners, top three in that. And they have fantastic ecosystem they provide for us. I mean, we filed the patents, we got the incentive to file the patents. In fact, we deliberately, okay, now we have to use these incentives. Let's file, let's do something, right? So such a beautiful ecosystem Qualcomm has given us at that time. We fully utilized. We are one of the startups. We fully utilized every incentive, every penny there. We got even the grants for those patents when we got. And I really appreciate Qualcomm to create nurturing that ecosystem for the startups, right? And there we work with fantastic people there, both in Bangalore, Hyderabad, and even in US, kind of collaboration. So in this journey, we did understood how Qualcomm is also really looking at IP, right? And that's when, to be very honest, we also graduated in that phase, and we understood. Uh, and I went to Qualcomm headquarters also once, and how much of value they give to IP, and that's when we took inspiration. Yes, we should keep doing this, and that's the only incentive we use. To be very honest, I've not used a government incentive, but maybe there is more to explore there. But I'm not the right person to comment on that.
Thank you, and thank you for the kind words for Qualcomm. I think for the startups and MSMEs and academic institutes, I would say, looking at history of Qualcomm, how it started, it's an academic IP-led driven startup which came from an academic driven research, and I think the IP was the core part of it, and I think it started from there. But yeah, I think we'll leave that discussion for some other
Just
time.
one
Thank
point
you.
I want to add. I think one more point, maybe we need to think about this policy somewhere. Uh, we should incentivize for filing US patents or PCTs. I feel always the policies are around filing India patents. But I also felt that the value of patents are better if it is US or PCT, right? I think somewhere those incentives, I believe, I don't think it is there. So maybe there is an opportunity for hopefully the policymakers to look at it. But I think in general, we observed that we need to always file US and PCTs to protect globally. It's not just India patent.
Fair enough. And I think you're right. I think you have a great point there because patents are jurisdictional. So I'm sure all startups would aim to grow globally at one point, and so
Yeah.
patents in different jurisdictions are important. So
If you
yes,
ask me, if I need incentives for US patents and PCT, they are more expensive
yes, yes.
to
I
even
believe
maintain, file, to
yes,
get the examinations done. India
yeah,
patents are relatively okay to manage, but US patents are very expensive.
yes, yes. Yeah, and I think that reflects the power of the market. And if you get it there, then your products can be, the IP can help you a lot there. So you're right. Great point. Okay, so I think let's move on to the budget. I think for any organization, budgets are important, whether it's big or small. Balwan, question to you on how did you manage budget? Because I think Mercedes is a great company, great big company, but I'm sure like it, the you still have to manage budgets, and sometimes they are not easy to come by. So from your perspective, how did you prioritize IP development, IP creation, still manage to get budgets, meet the budget guidelines?
Yeah. So Nitin, I think it is a common question because if budget is unlimited, you can file unlimited patents,
Mhm.
right? So especially in the startups and SMEs, there is a very limited, not just the budget part, but also the time is also quite limited. There will not be many people also, right? So it's important that whatever IP assets we are choosing, let's say at the initial ideas or the problem we are solving, those are carefully selected because it requires a lot of investment and time later on also if we are not really looking at those things. So first thing, basically, what we do is that we always look at the value of that idea that it brings to the business, right? So if it is closely aligned with the strategy of the organization, if it is closely protecting the key IP, the products that we have, definitely it must be there because it is protecting our innovations. In addition, if those are futuristic ideas that I mentioned, that we also need to be prepared for future scenarios. We also look at what is the possibility that we will use in the future, and not just us, whether our competition is also likely to find value in the ideas even if we don't implement it ourselves, right? So this is one question that we ask about the use case of that idea so that we can bring about the possibility of realization in our product or even competitors' product. Having said that, once we do the a quick search or the patentability search that we do, we also compare it with the similar ideas to see what is the scope of protection. Is it a broad scope or is it a not narrow scope? So that we can see that yes, if we patent it, how hard it will be for our competitors to bypass this patent. So if we are able to get a broad scope and it is sufficiently covering the area that competition will find it difficult, it would be of great value to monetize later on by licensing later on. So these are the some analysis before we decide yes to prioritize those ideas and to also not doing it only at the filing stage, but we keep on doing this activity to rank and evaluate our patent portfolio so that it stays up to date with the business realities and strategy of the business.
Great, great. Thanks. And Murli, same question to you. I mean, startup world is much more constrained. Also, Balwant has also alluded to that. Any specific thoughts on the same? How do you, as you rightly said, but filing patents is costly. How do you manage that? Any suggestions on how do you navigate through this?
Yeah, I think one of the things that which Balwant already kind of indicated is about casting the net very wide when you file a patent. And really, it's all about techno-legal language and working with your patent lawyers. So, for example, I'll give an example of our patent, the Smart Yoga Mat. So, when we filed the patent, we said, okay, hey, this is going to help yoga, and there's a yoga mat, and this sense. Then we worked with the patent lawyers, and they said, okay, you know what, we can abstract it because it can be used for the yoga or maybe for Pilates or for some other exercise. It could be useful for walking or something else. It's a smart surface. And we worked with closely with them, and we filed something which can give maximum broader scope. The claims can give us such a scope that anybody using smart surface with our sensor kind of a thing, and we didn't use any off-the-shelf components. It's our own substrate, and that when we got our first patent filed for it, that gave us so much of coverage. So instead of 10 patents, you have one patent which is giving very good coverage, right?
Mm.
So that way we could make it very quality focused and quantity part. It's not about number of patents, but it's about quality of patents. It's also about quality in such a way that your success ratio of getting a grant is high. So that way the wastage of money is not going in, okay, I just got an idea and file it, and it goes through a process of rejection. So that's like a lot of money, time, everything, resource wastage, even patent lawyers' time. So how do you really qualify the claims? How do you make sure that claims are really, really novel without having to spend a lot of money and time and resources? So this over time it happens. It's not like, okay, it's not like first time it happens. It takes a little time. So that's why one of the ideas to make it budget friendly is to file provisional patents. Sometimes when you file provisional, which is not like a full patent, so you will get some time, 1 year, to make it full patent. So within that time, your ideas will get more clear, and you can make this provision to full. And good news is provisional filing date will be the prior art date. So
Mm.
still you are holding that, and at the same time you are saving money, and maybe you are getting more clarity, and we're making a full patent with clarity and quality. So this is how I would like to approach. So focus on quality, as Mr. Balwan said, focus on broadening the scope, making sure that there's a casting the net very wide in terms of claims and what you can have in a patent, and investing maybe more on that patents. And third is, also don't just like that file patents. Think, do proper idea of, I think patentability search will take care of it, but make sure that sometimes I have to share this because some patent lawyers and the groups, right? They tend to create like more patents out of one of the invention disclosure forms we give. So, oh, you know what, this idea can create three patents. Like, we should not fall into the trap. We should be careful about what is the right thing to do. If it is indeed what they say is right, that's good. But save money in that elements. Don't just go for number of patents.
Very nice. I think it's a great advice. I think if we can get a broader patent, one patent could be more valuable than four patents. And so I think that's a good advice. And thank you again. So to all the attendees, I think if you have any questions, please type in the chat box. We are almost there, and I think we can take a few questions before we jump into the next segment. So please type in the chat box, or maybe raise your hand. I think I'm not sure if I can see, but yeah, I think typing in the chat box would be the good thing. So while we get questions, I think I do have a few more things to ask, and I think it's a wonderful conversation that's going on. A lot more perspectives that are being built here. Let's talk about good practices around what we should not be doing, right? So avoiding pitfalls around IP matters, right? So for example, how do you prevent public disclosures, right, or risk associated with that before filing IP protection? So Balwant, any ideas, any practices that you have in your organization that safeguards against this pitfall, or any other pitfalls that you might want to highlight?
Yeah, so on this matter, the training and awareness is important, because that's where all our employees and all our workforce, they should understand the value of IP, as well as IP getting lost if you disclose it outside. So that one part you cover it proactively to make them aware. Second thing that we normally do is that before any public disclosure, we have an approval system built in where we always check that what is the risk to the company, are they allowed or not, and also before they disclose it, can we also protect the IP before it goes for publication, and how much time it is, so that we can provide timely support. So both mechanisms actually will help.
Okay, thank you. Murli, your experience in 3 companies, have you built in anything that safeguards against any of the pitfalls?
Yeah, I think I kind of echo what Mr. Barwan said, but just one more point, I think, where we always like to make sure that, see, it's all about respect of each other's intellectual property, right? And it comes from the space of uh, having that security on your own patents and or IP for that matter. Even by the way, I'm just talking more about patents, but it can be trademarks, can be code also, right? I mean, a lot of these we should be clear about. When you're using open source, we should attribute, and these are the policies and the coding guidelines or whatever we mention to our engineers ingrained in their mind and so it should not be anywhere. These things can create so much of collateral damage that you cannot really come back. This is so severe of patent or any of the IP theft. So infringements and all that should be so careful. This can be a very important point when you're working with other companies and you're doing some IP things. And that's why we have to have a clear policies and definitions. What's the area of, and if there are, let's say we're working on, let's say with another organization and something is coming out of it, we need to make sure that it is being communicated both ways, right? And in the process, if something is coming out, like how do we attribute this? How do you make sure we get the inventor on the other side? So I think following a very respectful kind of policies and making sure that our everybody in a company. And by the way, we have also come across scenarios where somebody let's say, working in the company and they move on and they do something else, we also are very serious about those matters because that's where these employee agreements and consulting, even consulting, we have agreements, contracts on IP, protection and all these elements, the words have to be very, very clearly defined. So making sure that having a legal team review these documents are so important. We should not undermine that because sometimes in a startup world, especially Nitin, it's so competitive out there, right? So people, it's only a matter of time. It eventually shows up in a different way, in a different flavor, but they don't never communicate that. So this is something we need to be very careful and protective about. But it's very hard, but we should have respect for each other's IP.
Yeah. Great. Now, thanks for all these insights. So we have a couple of questions that I see. So first one, first one is, how do we make sure the idea we want to patent has not been filed before and is a novel idea? I guess, that's a good question in the sense like, how much search is enough, let's say. Let me add to that and then give a flavor to this question. So yeah, I mean, Balwant or Molly, any one of you or both of you, if you can share your thoughts on how do you ensure that what you have come up with is novel and worth the money you want to spend on going forward.
So there are a lot of free and paid databases that are available where you can put in your ideas now. And I see that now many of these search databases are becoming very more intelligent with also AI coming in, so that the moment you put any text, they should be able to easily find out what is the closest patterns that match.
Yeah.
But in order to use them, one should know that how to read patents. Because a patent is a very structured document, so sometimes written in a legal language, but it always has section about what is the background, what is the problem to be solved, how they are solving, and then what is the scope of protection. So at least for this question, I can say that you don't need to really read the entire 20, 30, or 40 pages. You just need to find out what are the sections which are talking about the problem being solved, especially in the summary section, and how they are solving. So if they are solving a similar problem, then you can also look at how they are solving it, and if it closely matches, you can find out and also learn from them.
Yeah. Murli, anything you want to add?
No, I don't know if there is a ChatGPT version already helping in finding, oh, is this patentable or not types, but that kind of prompt. But I think the main thing as I think definitely Google Patents is a very good thing, and patent databases are evolving. But having said that, uh, if there is a strong conviction about the claim that it is not a prior art, that's the thing we need to always look at. If something is very obvious and it is already there in the prior art or publications or documents, obviously you should not spend time. But if there is an element that you think maybe you're solving the same problem in a different way and there is a certain claim or the method is different, so best thing is to get patentability search done by the patent lawyer. They take 10,000, very nominal amount usually, and make them do the job and give you the best answer. Maybe if you are not able to figure out from the databases.
Yeah. So Google Patents is definitely a one of the easy ways.
Yeah.
And if you want a even broader coverage, then European Patent Office also has.
Yeah.
Wipo also has many such tools. Those are free databases. And if you go for a paid options, then there are options available, and some of which also use AI, generative AI, uh, which not which even some of the patent offices are also using it.
Yeah, thanks. So I think that answers one of the other questions that came up is suggest some website databases for patent search. So just to reiterate, patents.google.com could be a good website. EPO website, I think it's called Sparsnet. That could be the other one. There's a WIPO patent scope website which you can use as well. They are all free. Paid ones, I guess, I'm sure there are quite a few vendors who can do that as well. So we have a question on infringement issues regarding international market against some patents in India. So I guess I think Shreya is asking the question, infringement issues regarding international market against some patents in India. So I guess maybe we should, talk about, before we get to this, maybe a quick question that I may ask is, how do you build a global IP perspective, and maybe a quick 2 minute or a minute comments on from both Balwant and Moldy on how do you leverage PCT or other international mechanism to build a global IP, and then we can come back to this question, because I guess that will be then easier.
Yeah. So I can add to it, because Morley also mentioned initially that like what he's looking at the US. So the question to ask is that where is your market where you will be actually using the IP? So so one part is definitely there, that select which countries where you want IP protection, because typically where your customers are, that is one obvious choice. Then where is your competition filing, that so that you can even license it if needed. Third is that where is the manufacturing and the supply chain is, so that you can also stop the counterfeits or copies which are related to your IP. So if you have IP protection in these three type of countries, you can maximize the protection. And typically for PCT, it is you said that PCT is also a very costly mechanism. So we use it, and anybody should use it if the number of countries that you want protection on is large, typically more than 5. Otherwise, if you are only interested in 2-3 countries, a direct filing is cheaper option. But if you want more flexibility, that you think, let's say you are a startup and you want to expand to multiple countries, so you need some time to think, then PCT is a better option. It will give you more, around 31 months extra before you extend the protection in multiple countries. Otherwise, if you file directly, then you have to file it in less than a year.
Great.
Yeah, I think I don't have any additional comments. I think this is pretty much I echo with Mr. Balwant here. I think the main thing that I found is you need to focus on the US market predominantly, because I think that's where a lot of these inventions, patents, have a commercial aspects, like, be it technology licensing, be it actually the product itself, right? Commercialization. So look at the commercialization aspect and file it in that countries, and PCT will give you some additional time. And WIPO, the World Intellectual Property Organization, is that it gives 165 countries coverage in one with the PCT, but then you can decide which are the countries. You don't need to really look at all the countries, but some of the countries where there's more value for that kind of commercialization or licensing, like Europe and UK and few other countries, you can really look at it. Uh, uh, I will reserve my comments on China, because I don't know whether it is of making any difference there, but filing there. But overall, I feel that's the way we should go about. Very happy to share that recently in the WIPO UN General Assembly, Yogify was showcased as one of the inventions from India. And thanks to this kind of visibility we got for the Global Patent Office. Yeah.
Awesome. Congratulations on that.
Yeah.
So coming to this question of infringement issues regarding international market against some patents in India, I think there are a couple of things we can talk about on this, right? One, as Balwant said, it all depends on where your market is, right? So if your market is in a particular country, then you should be looking at protecting it, and the other two categories that Balwant mentioned, and also what Murli has said. Now, remember this point that patents are jurisdictional. So if you have a patent in India, internationally, it doesn't make any sense, right? Or it doesn't have any meaning. So your Indian patent is owned only in India. So if you do not have a patent in other jurisdictions, in those jurisdictions, anyone can use your technology for free, and you can't do anything about it. So
Yeah.
so
Just want to add one point. Sorry, I think I just remembered. Look at the market where you are commercializing, and also look at the market where you are, or the country where you're manufacturing also. It's also very important to make sure you have a patents in that.
Right. So if you have more questions, Shreya, to that, please clarify, but assuming that you got your answer. Moving to the next question, can we have patent rating agency which can certify the commercial viability with grade marks? Any quick comments there, Balwant or Molly, from your side?
I don't have an idea, to be honest. It's a good idea, like credit crystal ratings, something for this, but to be honest, I don't know.
I mean, there are some ways to find the strength of patents, like how much it is,
Yeah.
referred to, and it depends on the industry where it's applicable to, and so on and so forth. But one standard agency rating patents, I guess that's not there. Balwant, I think you had something to add.
Commercial viability, I think it will vary company to company.
Yeah.
Because the same patent could be commercially viable for one company, and that's why they will license it out, and other company will make it and they will not. And
Yeah.
it changes over time, so it's very difficult because it's a dynamic thing. It's ultimately the technology that you have patented. Like, what do you do with the technology? How will you make the commercial gains out of it? It is subject to the market forces and customer demand, which is totally variable. So I don't think it will be a static way, or even if somebody has to do it, it will change every day.
Yeah, nice. I think that's very well said. So next question is, how can innovators strike a balance between sharing their innovation and protecting it?
Hmm.
They can always share after protecting it. So
Yeah.
I think, see, it's a very interesting question because open innovation is also part of the culture, right? I mean, when we are, you know, usually the ideas come when you are discussing with others, and it shapes into more concrete ideas. So it's a very tricky thing. Only thing is, share with the people whom you can trust.
And also, I guess,
Or protect it before you share with the people whom you don't know.
right. I think you rightly said. I think IP protection mechanisms gives you a way to mark what you bring onto the table in any conversation. So as you rightly said, protect it, file a patent before you disclose outside. That way you have a boundary for your contribution, and as well you are sharing it, and hence you can build a collaboration. And I think standardization is a great example of that. I mean, you see that 3GPP or these organizations where multiple, like 500 600 companies or entities collaborate, they still do the same thing, protect and then go ahead and discuss and disclose. Right. The other thing, I think, as Murli said, you may still want to keep your trade secrets, which is the secret sauce, and but you still disclose a lot more other things. So you may have a combination of patents, you may have a secret sauce called trade secret, and you may disclose what you have already filed for, but you may still want to keep everything, something important internally, so that you don't have to fight legal battles to stop protecting, right? Because as you know, once you file a patent application, it's a public knowledge, and anyone after 18 months can read it and use it, and you should, it's difficult to go after everyone, right? And when you're a small startup, I think that makes it a lot more difficult. So I think what Murli said and what Balwant said makes a lot of sense, that you may have to strike a balance between patents and trade secrets, and then build your business collaborations around it. So great question again, thank you. Okay, so let's take a diversion here. We also have a few distinguished speakers for special address. So I would like to invite Dr. Lakshmi, who's Director of Incubation Center at KSR College of Engineering, for her special address. Lakshmi ji, please, over to you.
Yeah, good evening all. It's a pleasure for me to be a part of this discussion on this IPR and best practices. And I'm excited to share the best practices which we are following in our institution. And as we all know that the landscape of IPR is continuously evolving, and it is important to stay informed and proactive in protecting our innovations, ideas, and creative works. In our institutions, We do have best practices, and we are establishing our dynamic startup ecosystem through mentorship and guidance, and through the industry mentors and advisors and alumni networks. And also, we are in the part to change the mindset of the students, and we are creating awareness about the IPR on various aspects. And we are conducting the campaigns, awareness programs on intellectual property rights, whether the students may have startup or the artist, they may have creating the original works and large corporation. So we have to safeguard their ideas, and the understanding and managing IPR plays a crucial role for maintaining a competitive edge. So this intellectual property is one of the most valuable assets for the ideas, business, and creators and innovators across all the field. And also we have the curriculum also in our institution. We have the curriculum structure. We have focused on design thinking and entrepreneurship courses. Apart from that, we had technical and non-technical clubs, which is specific areas like the coding, robotics, and artificial intelligence. Entrepreneurship clubs also we had in our institutions. That will create the networking opportunities and interdisciplinary collaboration. In the last 5 years, in our institutions, we have filed 175 patents, of which 61 were published in the IPR journal, and the 5 utility patents were granted, and 80 design patents we had. Not only that, we have the copyrights too, the effective IPR management, which helps us for commercial success of any industry or institutions. So this, not only this, the understanding of various types of IPR like patents, trademarks, copyrights, and trade secrets, which can create a strategy not only steals the intellectual assets but also maximize their value in the market. And I would like to emphasize that the IPR are not just about the ownership, and they are about building and maintaining a culture of innovation, creativity, and fair competition. So this session actually helpful for our students community, definitely, and they will protect their ideas in future. And thank you for your attention, and I look forward to the discussion ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lakshmi. Very nice to know about all the stuff that's happening at the college. So thank you. Let's move on to our next special speaker, Dr. Ajay Kumar Sharma. He is HOD Biotechnology at IMSEC for his special address. Dr. Ajay, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Nitin, for giving us this an opportunity to provide us the inputs what we are doing at our level in our IMS Engineering College, Ghaziabad. We are working on a multi-pronged strategy to work on the system of IPR. One is we are having an IPR cell, which is a special vertical being looked after by one of the faculty, Dr. Sanjeev Sharma. Then we have the IIC, Institutions Innovation Council, which is working on the same. And the third is a technology incubation factor, technology incubation cell, which is in fact giving us a platform so that whatever the IP that we are generating here can further be converted into commercialized prospectus. So first is IIC, the Institutions Innovation Council. It is working under the able leadership of Dr. Siddharth Vas. He is the president here, and there are many different activities which are being conducted around the year in the area of innovation, in the area of startups, entrepreneurship, and in the area of IP itself. And various meets have also been held under this, and I'm very happy to note that, and I'm very happy to announce this, that we are one of the 12 institutes in North India who have secured 4 out of 5 rating, the 4 rating out of 5. And Likewise, the Technology Incubation Foundation in our institute, which is led by Dr. Monica, we have conducted different meets with our alumni. So all those alumni who have been running different companies since past many years, because the institution was established way back some 20 years back. So before that, there are many alumni who are working in different fields. So we had called a meeting in September as well as in October. Two of the meets have been held recently, where these startups or the alumni, they have showcased their talents and in what other different avenues they are working with. And they have also had a meet with our current students, and they also motivated them for going for the entrepreneurial version. At the third level is our IP cell, which is working on the same in order to generate more IP. Like in the past 1.5 year, we have more than 100 patents which have been published, and more than 50 in copyright, in the form of copyright. Now we understood that it is important for these to take them to the grant level. We understood that not that much percentage of that can be granted, but what's important for us is to convert them into something kind of commercial prospectus. So for that, we are conducting these meets so that students and the faculty members, they get aware about the kind of culture which can be developed using these entrepreneurial activities and using these IP. I thank SOCHM on behalf of the Department of Biotechnology and on behalf of IMS Engineering College for giving us an opportunity to become a partner in this webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Ajay. I think it's great to have you come and talk about and share the details. Share the details of great work. So moving on to our next special address by Dr. S. Suresh Kumar, who is Associate Professor at SSNCE. Professor Suresh, over to you.
1 second, sir. Very good evening to one and all present here. Thanks for the opportunity given to our institution to share the best practices of IPR. So totally we have 114 patents till now. We have 5 over the years from 2012 onwards, and then published 113, and then we have 55 granted patents over the year. And then this is an overall summary, filed, published, and then granted. So this is actually we in our institution we have a culture of motivating our BTech students to start with their design and fabrication project or collaborative projects with the biomedical department. So in this way we are motivated to address the international competitions and collect the problems from the compendium of problems of defense sector. So we are collecting, as our other industry experts exactly pointed out, we are collecting the problem. We are spending more time in searching of the published patents problem formulation. That is, we took long effort to identify which is not available. So in that way, we are doing the patent portfolio also. So we are collecting the WIPO and whatever the advanced sites to collect to search what is not available. And based on that, we are incorporating the design thinking approach over the problems, and then we are refining the statement. And then this is the main backbone of our idea. So these are the examples of the granted patents. We are in strong connection with the NIPAM and then other institute also. Actually, we are using the design thinking approach. We are very clear how to develop a new product using the design thinking concept. So we know the traditional way of design and how can we use the design thinking approach to invent a new product. So this is how we are following the entire 5 steps to invent a new product. For even using that, we are involving the students to identify, for example, what are the needs of an automobile segment. We are categorizing in such a way that, so how can a biomedical expert can help or combine with the mechanical department to develop a new products, or similarly, how can the mechanical can join with the IT department to develop a new product, to handle a product form. So in this way, we are motivating a lot with the collaborative product research. So even we are strongly working with the automobile safety. Even this is one good example where industry need was, we obtained the needs, the problem was posted by an industry. So we worked for the students team and faculty team, we worked for that. And then this is an international competitions, and finally we could go to the last stage, and that idea has been patented and granted right now. Similarly, we could able to identify what are the real-time things not available. Even for a small example, a sunroof is available to enjoy the things. So is there any device or attachment is available for to enhance the escape worthiness of the car occupants during the life-threatening environment? So in this way, the thinking process actually, as exactly the previous presenters pointed out, so what is need for the society? What way we are supposed to think so that to address the untold need of the customer? In this way only we are focusing a lot. And similarly, even for example, even if the car tire burst happens, how to control them to maintain the lanes? So in that way, so we are focusing on more on safety aspect is the first one. Even we are not only the safety aspect, we are also working towards the needs of the farmers, agricultural side, aerospace side, even biomedical instrumentation, and then signal processing. Now, in all the areas we are working, most of the time we are working with a collaboratively, so that the new idea will get definitely a new form. So even if we consider that we are collecting the pain points from the society only, so and we are doing the pattern search after that. What are the equipments available, or equipments or devices, products available to meet their needs? So based on that only we are filing the patent. So similarly, similarly, for example, by collaboration, because biomedical people may be very strong in the earthworms or even some other mechanisms, biomimicked components. So in this way also we are learning from the nature based also we are using. And apart from that, we are strongly motivating our students to do the collaborative research is the first point, and second one is the design thinking approach we are using, and then pattern mapping, pattern searching is we are focusing a more lot rather than doing something and then finding out what else are available. We are spending a long time to identify what is not available, what work already has been done. So we are giving more emphasis on that. Then we are extending to our work towards a products form, not in the concept alone. So we are extending to the product form. So till now we have a 55 granted patents, and among them the major patents we are interacting with the companies, so that now we are in the TRL level 4 or something. So how to meet the needs of the company for the commercialization, that part also we are working. So and moreover, so from the student side, since they are very good in working with the commercial software and other thing, that expertise is being used to develop a new product. So this is the best practices which we are following in our institution. I express my sincere thanks for the organizers for giving an opportunity for this webinar. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Suresh, for giving a brief overview. This is very helpful, and it's very nice to see the colleges focusing on IP generation and also looking at the value proposition, because I guess from the latest NIF ranking, I think we also need to focus on commercialization aspect of it. And as we discussed in the earlier part of the discussion, that tying down the patent creation with the business aspect and the commercialization aspect or the market aspect, I think is very important to generate meaningful IP. And so I think it's very good to see the efforts that are happening in that direction. So with that, we come to the end of our session today. I would really like to thank Balwant. Thanks again for your time. You have always inspired us through your talks and discussions, both professionally and personally. So very happy to have you here today. And always, it's a great pleasure to talk to you and learn from you. Molly, thanks again for you. I know you were not feeling well, but we really appreciate you coming here and sharing your thoughts, because for big companies it's somewhat easier, or perceived that it's easy to build a good IP strategy, but for a startup to think about IP right from the beginning, build an IP strategy, create a success based on a technology product, not just in India but globally. You have shown really the path how the tech companies or the core tech startups should work and behave. So definitely I appreciate your time. We have always looked at your journey and felt happy and inspired by it. Startups is not an easy job. So I think that's definitely a great one. So thank you for your time in spite of your health conditions. We appreciate. I'm sure the participants will also appreciate the insights that has been shared to you and to Professor. So Dr. Lakshmi, Ajay, and Dr. Suresh, thank you again for sharing details about your great work and colleges. Very promising to see, Indian colleges focusing on these aspects. And, I think looking at all this, I'm sure the future is bright and we are in the right direction. So with all that, I thank all the speakers and all the participants. And if anyone of you still have questions that are not answered, please send it to ASOCHAM and we'll be able to get answers to you. Thank you again and wish you have a great evening today.
Thank you.
Thank you, the SHM team, for organizing this great platform.
Thank you.
I would like to thank ASOCHAM for providing opportunity for our Kaiser College of Engineering. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.